Acceptance rate matters for the wrong reason with some of our gig food delivery app platforms. And I'm going to talk about it on this segment of the Gig Geezer. If this is your first time checking out the Gig Geezer, or if you're a returning visitor of the Gig Geezer, hey, thanks for coming by. And if you would not mind, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome comments in the section below. I'm going to start off by conceding that whenever someone shares their deactivation stories, at least here in the YouTube sphere, that story may be met with some suspicion and contempt. And I'll give you that much. I'm also going to say that I am the first to admit that I am one of the more notorious people out there who will game these gig app platforms just as much as they try gaming me. And there are many things that I have not shared here on the Gig Geezer channel because I don't want someone to be deactivated for some of the tricks that I have pulled in order to make the money that I have made on these apps. And for all I know, given the litigious society that we live in, someone may try to sue me claiming that I am the reason why they're deactivated. So that's one reason why I don't share certain things. With all that said, I am going to share with you some of my deactivation stories, and a few of the situations that I am sharing with you may help you avoid being deactivated on these apps, and that may be a good thing. And by the way, I'm in Wood Lane, and as I've shared on many occasions, I've been active in the gig economy since September 2016, starting in rideshare on the Uber and Lyft apps. And then I added other apps like Roadie in 2018 and DoorDash in 2019, and the list has grown since then. Now, um, as I mentioned, I have been deactivated by apps, but I've also been reactivated by apps. I'll start first with the apps that I've been deactivated but yet reactivated on. They are UberEats, GrubHub, and BiteSquad. But of those apps, I've managed to remain active on UberEats. That's right. Now, the apps that I am currently deactivated on, and have been deactivated on for that matter, are Amazon Flex, GrubHub, and BiteSquad. Now, why is it important that I've shared the app platforms that I've been deactivated on, but then reactivated? Well, first is to give you hope that maybe nothing's permanent, at least technically speaking. The second reason is that you still may find a way to keep on keeping on. And the way of keeping on is to have more, to work multiple apps. It also shows just how precarious and tenuous our status are on these gig app platforms. We are literally one delivery away from deactivation, or we are one ride away from deactivation, whether justified or not, or whether founded or not. And before I get into the actual deactivations as to why I was deactivated, let's go over some of the leading reasons why drivers are already deactivated. The first and most common reason why drivers are deactivated is for delaying orders. And that usually occurs when you're working multiple apps and things have gone wrong in your strategy of working multiple apps. The other reason is that customers claiming that orders were never delivered to them. And the last reason, which usually occurs on rideshare, falls under the umbrella of unprofessionalism. That's a broad term when allegations are made on the rideshare apps of Uber and Lyft. And by the way, if you like the content that's been provided in this segment of the Gig Geezer or in any other segment of the Gig Geezer, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. I'm going to start with the Bite Squad app. Now, I've been contracted off and on the Bite Squad app since September 2020. And just this week, in fact, it was Tuesday, January 3rd, 2023, I got my third deactivation email since June 2022. And I get it. You say third, Gig Geezer? Yes, my third. And so you're wondering, what have I been doing wrong? And by the way, how in the world have I been able to game them to get reactivated as many times? Well, I'm going to sum it up like this. It may not be all what you think, but there's a reason why. Now, I want to explain, first of all, that Bite Squad only exists in name only. Bite Squad, which is based out of Minnesota, was purchased by this company, the Louisiana-based company, Waiter, for $321 million back in 2018. And almost immediately, Waiter recognized that it paid too much in his acquisition of Bite Squad. Now, here's where I'm going to kind of imply some kind of subterfuge here. As I mentioned, Waiter is based out of Louisiana, in fact, Lafayette, and their goal has been to provide service to smaller markets like mine, the Columbia, South Carolina metropolitan area, and in other various markets like in Mississippi, Georgia, Florida, Hawaii. There's about 17 states in total at this time. Delivery Logistics is also an entity that is based in Lafayette, Louisiana. And Delivery Logistics and Waiter/Bite Squad, at least according to what they say, are separate entities, but yet they're somehow linked. And that's where the subterfuge comes into play. If you look at Waiter/Bite Squad's website, the use of delivery logistics and Waiter/Bite Squad slash ASAP are used interchangeably. When you look at the policy on timely and untimely deliveries, the references to ASAP or Waiter/Bite Squad. But when they speak of actual administrative, onboarding, matters of deactivation, and dispatching of orders to drivers through their algorithm, those matters are referred to delivery logistics. So if you're not really keen on corporate structures, one may presume that delivery logistics is nothing more than a corporate front of ASAP/Waiter/Bite Squad. My first deactivation occurred in June 2022. And the reason they say I was deactivated, they said it was unfortunately due to complaints regarding issues with the quality of service that were reported by our vendor, Bite Squad/Waiter, and my account is deactivated at this time. Now, I didn't understand entirely what they meant by complaints regarding issues with quality of service that were reported by a vendor, Waiter/Bite Squad, because I did not understand the corporate structure of Waiter/Bite Squad or delivery logistics or whoever the fuck they are. But I waited a few weeks. I reapplied under a different email address and phone number, and I was reactivated with Waiter/Bite Squad. And I thought things were okay. Now, by the way, that first deactivation, I will admit that I really abused that app. I mean, I really abused it. I held orders for more than 20 minutes sometimes before unassigning them. I actually delivered orders really, 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 really late on the app because I didn't give a shit. I mean, many a times the orders didn't pay, at least worthwhile. And when they did pay, the orders had no tips on them. It was all based on what they call surges and priority bonuses. So, um, that said, I chalked that one up as it finally caught up with me. And so when I was reactivated the second time, I made sure that I didn't employ those types of behavior on the app. But yet, down a few weeks later, I got an email from Waiter/Bite Squad that read, this message is to inform you as a result of our vendors, Waiter and or Bite Squad, no longer requiring your services. Your contract with Delivery Logistics has been terminated effective immediately. I got that the second time, and I got it a third time. The second time when I got that email, I asked them, well, what was the reason? They told me, unfortunately, your account is not eligible for reactivation, and this decision is final. Your account will remain deactivated. Of course, when I got it the second time, I figured I'd wait a while and just wait it out and see what happens. I applied to be I applied under yet another email address and another phone number, and I was onboarded with the app in November. And apparently I lasted for about a month and a half. And this past week, what happened? I get that same email. Again, it read, "This message is to inform you that as a result of our vendors no longer require your services, your contract with Delivery Logistics has been terminated effective immediately." So I asked them again, "Why am I being deactivated?" They gave me the same reply. "Unfortunately, your account is not eligible for reactivation, and this decision is final. Your account will remain deactivated." So I'm thinking that maybe it's because of the orders being delivered later than expected. But then again, I did some research on their driver portal, on their website, and they said that according to the website, the amount of time it takes between accepting an order and arriving at a restaurant, as well as the time it takes between picking up an order from the restaurant and delivering to the customer. That is what they base everything off of. So that meant, in my case, many of the orders that I accepted were already late on arrival based on their calculations. What I mean by that, um, I mentioned about priority and surge bonuses. Waiter slash Bite Squad, at least in my market, had the worst paying orders. While their base was $6 an order, that didn't mean that it was like 2 miles and $6. Many orders were 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 miles for $6. If you got an order that was $10 or more, there was a very, very good chance that that order did not have much of a tip, and that it was supplemented by a surge or priority bonus, meaning that in order to get someone to accept the order, Bite Squad had to step up with more money. And so there were times, though, in which I did not accept orders even when it was $18 for 6 miles, because I already knew that it was a losing situation, and that the order probably had been sitting there for about 35, 40 minutes to an hour. In fact, for whatever it's worth, in my last iteration, the last time I was active on the app, I had completed 14 orders. Of those orders, 4 of them were delivered on time or earlier, or within, say, 9 minutes of their counting of an estimated arrival time. The remaining orders were anywhere between 23 and 88 minutes. But if you look at the type of orders I accepted, the lowest order that I accepted just this last time around was like $9. Just about all my orders that I accepted were $10 or more, and the highest was like $17. So I tend to wait for orders that was worth my while, at least in my opinion, to accept. But somehow that is not what Waiter slash Bite Squad wants. And so, upon further research, um, the day that I was deactivated, I'd gotten a weekly notification on the app indicating that I had completed full orders the previous week, and that my acceptance rate was 7%. Now that sounds about right for me, because I've never ever maintained anything more than single digits on that app. In fact, most times it was below 5%. The last order that I completed on that app was on January 1st. It was for $11. And the app said that I completed the order 1 minute earlier than estimated. What I learned was that there was a possibility that drivers could be deactivated despite it not being our fault, because of these orders being as late as they were. Because, first of all, Delivery Logistics says that, again, they monitor the time it takes from accepting an order to the moment that the order has been marked as delivered. At the same time, Delivery Logistics says All drivers are required to be located within a reasonable distance of restaurants on the driver platform when the contractor chooses to provide services. So we're referred to as contractors, but I'll show where they basically had treated us as employees or looked upon us as employees. The local team monitors service times and will contact delivery logistics if they notice a pattern of behavior that results in untimely service. So what is untimely service? According to Waiter/Bite Squad or Delivery Logistics, it could be unassigning an order more than 10 minutes after accepting it, late arrivals at a restaurant or customer, late arrivals due to multi-apping. That's from where they actually monitor our movements based on GPS tracking. The last is delaying deliveries, basically sitting on the order for 20 minutes or more after accepting it. Now, again, each of my last 2 times on the app, I made every effort to deliver BiteSquad orders almost separate of the other apps. So even if I knew that the order was going to be late on arrival, I simply drove directly to the merchant, picked up the order, and delivered it. Now, what I did notice the third time around, they did add the capacity of us taking pictures upon delivering the order, and I felt that that was a step in the direction. So what could have been the reason? Now, I've already shared that I'd shown the ability to deliver orders in a timely manner. Yet at the same time, I also did not take orders unless they were at least $10, meaning that these orders were already late on arrival, which apparently BiteSquad didn't like. So what could have been? The only thing that I could think of was low acceptance rate. The fact that I didn't accept all those $6 and $7 orders, the fact that I didn't accept those orders that were 15 miles for $8, or even as high as $18, the fact that I didn't accept those orders, I knew that they were setups for failure. Now, on the driver portal, under both BiteSquad and Delivery Logistics, there is a frequently asked question: does acceptance rate matter? And they say technically yes. If you're rejecting enough orders, your presence online could have a negative impact on the market, meaning you are contributing to more orders being late than you are positively impacting. In rare occasions, our delivery partners could decide to request contract termination in an effort to preserve our customer satisfaction. Now, here's where I have a problem with this delivery partnership. Delivery Logistics is supposedly a separate entity of Waiter/Bite Squad, but yet they're used interchangeably on the website. So they're hiding. The impression I'm getting is that they're hiding behind this other entity as the one who's actually making the fucking decisions, and that Waiter/Bite Squad is merely a customer of these folk. So whether that's the impression I got. They're hiding. They're playing games with us in terms of these corporate names, just to treat us as employees, and also to justify their actions of supposedly deactivating us because we're not accepting enough orders. That's what it amounts to me. Now, here's another reason why I say that it's all about acceptance rate. Now, I never saw this actual communication in any of the time that I've been active on the app, but there is something out there that you can pull online in which a driver shares that he received the communication from Delivery Logistics or Waiter/Bite Squad, and is dated in the fall of 2021. Beginning October 18, 2021, having an acceptance rate higher than 60% will be needed to ensure access to our delivery platform. Delivery Logistics reserves the right to limit access to our platform for acceptance rates below 60%. Yeah. Now, again, I had not seen that in my market, but apparently there are drivers out there who got this email and that at least among us drivers in the YouTube sphere, this actually appeared in a segment of Pete's Paid to Drive. Waiter slash Bite Squad is setting itself up to be sued, but also Waiter slash Bite Squad is setting itself up to be nailed by the Department of Labor if it does in fact go ahead with reclassifying gig delivery drivers as employees, because they have definitely muddied the definition of being an independent contractor. So, if you like the content that's been provided in this segment of the Gig Geezer and any other segment of Gig Geezer, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. GrubHub. This is the other app that I've been deactivated from. GrubHub, I was first onboarded with them in March of 2020. I'd survived 2 other deactivations before the one that stuck in November 2022. My first deactivation occurred in June 2020, and I admit that I was outright guilty of doing everything that you weren't supposed to do: holding orders, delaying orders, delivering them late, unassigning them after holding them. I mean, I did everything wrong, but yet, and yet, my mindset was at that time, my priority was delivering DoorDash orders first, then UberEats, then GrubHub orders. So when I got that deactivation email, of course, I was kind of stunned, and I realized that I'd fucked up. And so I sent an email to that effect telling that, yes, I was wrong, and I realized the importance of timely service, and this would not happen again. And I was quickly reinstated. So then I go another year. And in July 2021, in my market, the Columbia, South Carolina metropolitan area, this market was divided into subregions, 2 subregions. And it just so happened the week that all this went into effect, I was moving into another place. In fact, the irony was that I was moving from Lexington County to Richland County. And so I informed GrubHub of my move and also requested that I be assigned to the Richland County region. Somehow in the process, I was deactivated. I kid you not. And when I pressed to find out why I was deactivated, I mean, I couldn't believe that you're deactivating me because I changed addresses. They claim that there was a high number of orders that were canceled. Well, anybody who's familiar with the GrubHub app, typically when orders are canceled, that means that customers are claiming that they didn't receive their orders. So apparently, I had a bad run of customers who were claiming that they were not getting their orders, and in turn, drivers were being held responsible some way, somehow. Well, once again, I was able to stave off deactivation. And in fact, about that same time, I had dealt with a customer in Richland County who had on 4 separate occasions claimed that he did not get orders, meaning that orders were being canceled. In fact, on a couple of occasions, I had gone to GrubHub about it. But they never did anything about it. In fact, I had mentioned about this customer in a couple of early segments of the Gig Geezer. But anyway, in February of 2022, GrubHub came out with a new policy of, I guess you say, driver accountability, claiming that we had 3 strikes. If we had 3 contract violations within a 90-day period, we could very well be deactivated. Even though they gave us the form of appealing these contract violations, by and large, these contract violations were going to stick. So I had been assessed contract violations from February up through say July. Probably I had 3 of them, but no more than one at a time. In September, I got one for supposedly unassigning too many orders. And the reason why I went along with it was because I know that one of my tricks had been to hold GrubHub orders until I got another order on a different app for better money. So I didn't think anything of it. So I figured after that first contract violation for that 90-day period, I figured that I would back off of doing something like that. But then in November, I got another contract violation. It was for the same reason, unassigning too many orders. Well, this time around, I knew that it wasn't a case of me holding on to orders too long. In fact, only thing I could think of was that I had unassigned a couple of orders, and in this particular situation, it was the fact that there had been an email that come out telling drivers that, hey, if you just by mistake happen to get an order that you did not want, you can unassign it without any penalty. Here is the email that was sent out. Um, so I didn't think anything of that second contract violation because it was early November, and I figured that if I can just wait it out, only accept orders if they really, really were good situations, at least in my best judgment, I can wait out until December until I had just one contract violation. I can really go back to freewheeling it. But then a couple weeks later, happened on a Sunday night, I unassigned 2 orders in the same night. And the next day, I got an email saying that I had a high number of unassigned orders. Now, I completed less than 5 orders that week. I'd unassigned only 2 orders that week, and they occurred the same night. But here's the kicker. That night, since I knew I was on 2 contract violations, I knew that I figured that I had to try to protect myself. And the only way I knew how to protect myself was to contact driver support if anything came up. And so what happened was, in both cases where I unassigned myself from these orders, I actually contacted driver support, giving them detailed documentation, giving them detailed explanation as to why this was done. And I'm thinking that they would document this, and in the event something came up, they had this to refer on. They had this to refer upon. Well, that didn't matter. I learned that it did not matter. I also learned in putting together this segment of the Gig Easer that acceptance rate matters, but it matters to them, but for the wrong reasons. For them to tell me that there was a high number of unassigned orders, either they're going with the fact that anything more than one unassigned order was considered high, or it had to be in relation to your acceptance rate. Well, anyone knows about GrubHub, there is your ability to have access to shifts or blocks is based on your acceptance rate. The higher the acceptance rate, the earlier access you have to the blocks. Well, as long as I've been on the app, I always had access to blocks on Saturday mornings at 10:25. That's when I always had access to them. So for them to say that I had this high number, that meant that they looked at my acceptance rate, which was always in the upper single digits to low teens on that app. And they're saying that in relation to my acceptance rate, I had a high number of orders being unassigned. That's the only thing I could think of. And if that's the case, acceptance rates are mattering to certain apps for the wrong reason. And acceptance rates, if they're mattering for the wrong reasons, it is telling me that we are being seen more and more like employees on some of these apps. You as independent contractors, they say we can accept and decline any order. But then you turn around and say that, well, technically it can be held against you. Or in another case, yes, because in relation to the number of orders that you've accepted and completed, we consider that this is a high number of orders that you've undersigned. That tells me that that's the wrong that is the wrong direction that I see things heading. If you like the content that's been provided in this segment of the Gig Geezer or in any other segment of the Gig Geezer, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome comments in the section below. I'm Inwood Lane, and as always, may your hustle and may your grind continue.